Welcome to the second in a series of 3 support and training videos for the CompCalc AWS. My name is Richard Montarbo. In the next 8 to 10 minutes, I'll be reviewing for you the PD rating module of the CompCalc AWS. Before we begin, just a quick disclaimer. It's not the intent of Richard Montarbo, the law office of Richard Montarbo, nor any licensee of the CompCalc to create an attorney-client relationship, nor provide legal opinion or advice. All users of the CompCalc are specifically instructed to verify all information and data provided through the use of the CompCalc with either a competent legal workers' compensation attorney or the DEU. Last, the CompCalc is an estimator, not a calculator. Okay, let's go ahead and get started here. Just to mention a couple of things. First of all, new for the CompCalc AWS 2020 are the following. We have gone ahead and, of course, updated the indemnity, TD, and PD rates for 2020. We've also added a manual calculator for running a tape on actual earnings over a given period of time to calculate the average weekly wage, which can then be used for either TD or PD purposes. We added an export feature that allows you to print or creates an email of that tape once you've inputted all the information, so you can place a hard copy or an electronic copy within your file. Currently, we're working on the subsequent injury benefit trust fund calculator, and we hope to have that finished and complete our testing by the end of first quarter 2020, and that'll be available both on the Mac OS, the Windows 10 version for Microsoft users, as well as AWS users. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Of course, we're going to tap on our browser, and we're going to go to my website, Montarbo Law. Here's my website, and we're going to go down, scroll down on the home page. I have a link to the CompCalc AWS so that we can go ahead and get in there and bring it up. And there's the CompCalc AWS. Before we go any further, I'm going to close this out so we have a full screen on this. Let me start by reviewing some of what we went over during the basic features and functions video. First of all, you have your toolbar across the top. You have a navigation icon that allows you to switch in between all the different modules for the CompCalc. We also have a home button. This is going to take you back to the website from which you came. Let's go back in. We then have a link for the Mac OS downloads from the Apple Store, the Windows 10 at the Microsoft Store for downloads, and then we have, of course, we went over this in the basic features and function. We have file, which is save, restore, or create an email. We have our edit button, and then we also have our view button, and I'll be going through all those during this presentation. Let's go ahead and get started. In my hypothetical, we need to rate a multi-string, do a multi-string rating. The applicant has sustained a specific injury to low back and bilateral upper extremities. The low back, the doctor has indicated, results in a DRE3, 13% level of whole person impairment. He goes on to find that 80% of that whole person impairment and resulting disability is industrial, 20% is non-industrial, so he finds apportionment. He also goes on to find that the right upper extremity has no apportionment. He gives a 10% whole person impairment, and that the left upper extremity, which is a compensable consequence, is only 80% industrial. So we have 3 parts of body. That means the combined value equation might apply. We have multiple rating strings, and we have multiple differing levels of apportionment. Let's go ahead and do this real quick. We're going to start out, we have to put in the date of birth, of course, the date of injury. We have to put in the whole person impairment, apportionment for the rating string that we're working on, assuming apportionment applies. And that will calculate our rating string after we put in the general part of body, the specific part of body within that general part of body, the industrial occupation, and then within that industrial occupation, or industry rather, within that industrial industry, the occupation that applies. So let's go through this real quick. I'm going to start by opening up all these tables. Okay, now my screen looks a little bit cluttered if you're looking at this for the first time, but I can shut that down at any time I want. I can go ahead and open up individually. I can close them down. I can do whatever I want to keep it organized, depending on how you see the screen itself. Some people like everything open. Some people like everything closed. I don't know. I kind of like the one that I'm working on to be open and everything else to be closed. Okay, let's start out with the date of birth. The applicant was born in 1965. We're going to go up here to the year, and we're going to roll to 1965. We're going to hit that, and we just changed that to 1965. The applicant has a date of birth of February 1965 on the 20th day. And I've just inputted that. Now, if you wanted to just type it in, you could do that too. Okay? Now we have the date of injury. Now, I'm going to choose a pre-11-2005 date of injury. And you can see, you can scroll back and keep going, but that's going to take forever. We're going to go up to 2012 because I want a for the purpose of this demonstration, a pre-11-2013. So we have to go to the schedule for the DFEC modifier, not just use a 1.4 modifier. So, and this is going to be a date of injury of July 4th. How's that? July 4th, 2012. We're going to click OK. Now we have to put in the whole person impairment, where I told you we're doing the back. And you can put these in any order, and I'll demonstrate that shortly. But it's a 13% standard. We're going to leave the apportionment on the back at 100% right now. We're going to come back and change that. Now, the first thing that we want to do is we want to select the general part of body. And these are all the general parts of body from top to bottom. And we're going to select spine. Now, see what happened over here? Let's open that up. These are all the spine options. You can see I have a search engine on each one of these. And now we have the lumbar DRE that pops up, but these are all the lumbar, range of motion, etc. And I'm going to close those down, and we've just input, and you can see 15.03.01. So we're working on our rating string down here. Now we're going to go to we have to select the occupational industry. And you probably are all aware of this, but we have, according to the schedule, all these different occupational industries. Depending on what we select, we have the occupations within that industry. One of the things that you can do is select all industries, and then over here, you have an alphabetized list of all occupations. So let's say we want all clerks, because we want to kind of take a look at everything. Well, here are all the clerks per the schedule, because I just selected all industries. In my hypothetical, I'm going to say that he was an automotive service guy. And here's all the mechanics and all that sort of thing. Let's say that I want to know what mechanics are available. So I select, let's say he's a transmission mechanic, okay? And now I'm going to close these down. All I'm doing is double clicking on them, and they're all closed down. So you can see I select spine, lumbar DRE. I went on to select automotive services and a mechanic, transmission mechanic within automotive services. And here's my rating, it's 22%. But I told you when we began that I actually had 80% apportionment to industrial causation, 20% to non-industrial. You can see that's not reflected here. So it's 100% industrial per our inputs, but we're going to change it to 80%. You can see it automatically calculates and reduces it. Equally as important is what happens down here. Our 18% instead of 22%, our PD for that rating string is dropped down to 18%, and we have the amount of the indemnity, which is $15,065. I'm going to uncheck the combined value. We'll go over that in just a moment. Okay, so now we've completed our first rating string. The next thing I want to do is I want to do the second rating string. We're going to do the right upper extremity. I said it was some type of a entrapment carpal tunnel type injury. I'm going to hit new rating string, and you can see now we have two rating strings. I'm going to work on the first one. I'm going to modify that. Now, we're not going to change the date of birth. We're not going to change the date of injury. We are going to change the whole person impairment to 10%, and we're going to change the apportionment to 100% industrial or 0% non-industrial. But we have to change our part of body, don't we? And I told you it was an upper extremity. And what do we want to select here? How about, peripheral neuropathy, entrapment, compression, carpal tunnel. How's that? Now, you can see that my rating string's been modified. I'm not going to change the occupation because he's still a mechanic. We have only a single date of injury. And I just remembered, the applicant was not a maximum wage earner. He was only earning $300 a week. That's his average weekly wage. Drops the PD rate down to $200. The combined value is not on. 18 and 22 is 40 for $40,200. That's reflective of our rating based upon a date of birth of 2/20/1965, a date of injury of 7/4/2012, whole person impairment of 10% on the right upper extremity, 13% on the back, 80% apportionment on the back, no apportionment on the right upper extremity. He's not a maximum wage earner. $200 is his PD rate, 40%. But hold it. Kite doesn't apply here. I want to know what the combined value is. So I tap that. It drops it to 36. It reduces the PD down to 34,600. Okay? Now, in my hypothetical, we have one single rating string left. So we're going to go ahead. We could duplicate either one of these, but we're going to duplicate this because it's an upper extremity. And we're going to go ahead and add a new rating string. Puts that at the bottom. We're going to work on this top one now. Okay? And it's an upper extremity peripheral neuropathy, same age and occupation. I told you it was 80% apportionment, though, on this. And I don't know what I said, but we're going to change the whole person impairment to 8%. And there we can see our three rating strings. And you can see that everything changes in these boxes depending on what rating string we're working with. Right now I have 80% on the back on a 13% adjusted for age and occupation with a 20% reduction for non-industrial causation. That produces 18%. We have 14% on the left upper extremity because the reason I know that's left is because I told you in my hypothetical we had 20% apportionment to non-industrial. Oh, but hold it, I made a mistake. He didn't say 80%, he said 75%. Well, guess what? Everything carries out and it modifies everything. And that's the beauty of the way that we wrote the algorithms. You don't have to erase and start over from start to finish. But hold it. What if we want to see groups? Okay. What if we want to change the occupation to just a group? Okay. Right now, we know that our group is 370. Okay. We're going to tap this. Watch what happens. Now we have all the groups from high to low. Let's say that he's actually, let's go really high on this. He's an athlete. And you can see what's happened. We've just changed all the rating strings and recalculated everything using just a group. And let me tell you how I use groups all the time. Let's say that I want to see all the clerks according to high to low, all the clerks. And I want to know what I'm going to start with. I'm going to start, it could be a 111, it could be a 112. I read through this. Oh, it's a 360. And you can see that it automatically inputted that and adjusted everything, dropping it all down. So there is a multi-rating string that really, if I wasn't explaining it to you, I could have done it in 5 minutes. I'll bet you. Once I pulled out of the medical report that I was rating the whole person impairment, the parts of the body, had decided on the occupation. And I can play with this hypothetically to modify everything. Okay? Okay, so now we have our rating. What are we going to do with it? Well, we're going to go over here and we're going to tap on. We can save it. We can load it. after it's been saved, or we can email it. Now, I want you to see what happens with the email. Now, if we save it, we're saving it locally on our computer. We're not saving it on the up in the cloud, okay? And that's for privacy reasons. But let's say that we want to email this. Watch this. We tap the email. It generates, I'm going to close this down, it generates our complete email with our complete rating. And this looks just like what the DEU would want to see, or our client would want to see. And we're ready to mail it back. We can go ahead and copy the whole thing. And let's say that I'm going to close this down because we're not going to save that, but I've just copied it. Watch this. I'm going to go into my Word document. And there's my rating. I just brought it into a Word document, and I can send that off to my client. Go back to the CompCalc, and here's our rating. Okay, that in a nutshell is the PD rating module of the CompCalc. The next video is advanced tips and techniques. And there you're going to see some of the behind the scenes. I'm going to describe some of the algorithms, how I approached calculating, especially some of the COLA PV calculations of life pension 100%. Hopefully this has been informative, and hopefully the CompCalc will be a useful tool on your desktop. Two closing comments. First of all, if you come up with a great idea and say, hey, Rich, we'd really like to see this in the CompCalc, drop me a line. I do pay for great ideas. I'm going to take my hat off to some of the people that have helped me out. You know, Jason Marcus came up, Brad Chalk, both of them came up in the early days with some great ideas for the CompCalc. Right now on the subsequent injuries benefit trust fund calculation, I'm working with two great guys. I'm getting some insight from John Bloom, who really understands thoroughly the subsequent injuries trust fund, along with Art Johnson, but then also Eric Krause, who is the manager of the the manager of the subsequent injuries trust fund with the state of California, as well as the uninsured employers fund. So anyway, drop a line. You can go ahead and go to my website, Lassen Ranch. That's my website. If you want to see some great cutting horses, go to lassenranch.com. But if you want to drop me an email at the office, just go to montarbolaw.com and drop me an email. Let me know what your thoughts are. And hopefully this will be of some assistance. Thanks so much.